Hi, welcome to my podcast, Becoming a Cut Flower Grower. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm here to share my year of growing and selling cut flowers. I'll be giving you the lowdown on everything I'm doing and sharing all the highs and lows, the good times and the inevitable disasters, all in real time. Join me on my cut flower journey, starting right now. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode. Thank you for joining me. It's Tuesday, the 5th of August, and it is a really gorgeous, lovely late afternoon, that beautiful time, 5 o'clock, when all the clouds clear away and the sun is there, and it's just gorgeous. So I'm sorry if I sound a bit ropey today. I have got a cold, and I always think summer colds are just super unfair because I don't mind getting bugs in the winter, but bugs in the summer, not my favorite thing. So that's why my voice sounds a little bit funny, and there may be some sniffing going on during the episode. So apologies for that. We're back to business today. No more moaning or moping around at stuff. I think the last couple of episodes were not my most cheerful ones, so thank you for bearing with me during that. There definitely are phases in this journey where I'm, super happy and very excited and use the word amazing all the time, and then there are weeks where it's not quite so fun, and there are a few more challenges, but we don't need to listen to misery twice a week. So I have some news for you. Let me fill you in on what I've been up to on the plot. So we topped up, the royal we, my other half and I topped up one of our water storage bowsers, IBC number 1, with just under 1,000 litres of water on Saturday, using a new pump that he's purchased. So until we had the pump, he would fill up the wheelie bins with water from a hose pipe off his mains, and then we would drive it to the plot and then use big buckets to transfer it from the back of the van into the IBC, which involves going up a little slope and then standing on tiptoes to top up the IBC. So it was quite a time consuming process, not as messy as you would think, but it still, was quite laborious and not brilliant. And so he went and bought a pump that he's going to use for some other things as well. But the point is, the pump was supposed to make everything a lot quicker and easier, and it did. Only we had 2 different lengths of hose for this job. So you've got the wheelie bin, and you have to get the water from the wheelie bin pumped out of the wheelie bin, and he bought a really fat piece of hose for that, so really wide diameter, and it was clear as well, so you could see the water leaving the wheelie bin and going into the pump. But then from the pump to the water bowser, we ended up using a kind of bog standard household hose pipe, which has quite a narrow diameter, and that meant that the pump just couldn't pump a huge volume of water from the pump itself up to the water bowser. So it actually took us the same amount of time to transfer the water as if we had been doing it by buckets, but it was obviously a lot less physical effort, a lot less toing and froing, and no spillage whatsoever. But it did mean that because of the way the fat pump, the fat hose pipe worked, because it had to be inside one of the wheelie bins, somebody had to be in there to hold it in position the whole time. Because if you didn't, it kind of attached itself like a leech to the side of the wheelie bin and then couldn't suck as much water as it should do. So that was probably not the most fun, because the pump is also in the back of the van as well. So it's quite noisy, and you're sat there or squatting really for a dangerously long period of time, just thinking, how is this pump so slow? And of course, it's not the pump, it's because the water outputted through a domestic hose pipe, and it needs to go out through a fat hose pipe. So we've got to go and sort that out. But it did work. And I was thinking, gosh, I really need to have this pump permanently on the plot, because I could do all my watering by just pumping out directly out of the IBCs down a domestic hose pipe, because it doesn't matter for watering, with a lance at the end, and I would be able to water everything in super quick time. I don't think he's going to leave it on the plot, though. I don't think he's going to let me borrow it without supervision in case I break it. It was a very nice bit of kit, and it's battery powered, and it's by a make, I think it's Milwaukee, the make. It's like tradespeople's tools, but it has spare batteries, so you just, when one of them dies, you just pop another battery in and off you go again. So really useful bit of kit for people like me who have a plot that's off grid with no mains electricity. Now the lavenders are back. Yes, they're back. I went and picked them up over the weekend and taken the moss away, taken them out of the pots, left the terracotta pots um, where the florist studio is, and then I'm going to replant them on the plot. So at the moment, they've just had a really nice big drink just to replenish their little systems, and then I should be getting them planted out. I have also been planting out a lot more strawflowers. So I've had these guys in trays for quite a long time, actually. It doesn't seem to have done them any harm, and they have a fantastic root system, which is great. But it is pretty late to be planting them out. So I wasn't too worried about it because they can be dried if I don't get to sell them in time, and then sold as dried flowers as well. So they could go off for wreath making workshops or autumny workshops, something like that. But then I saw on the Instagram someone I follow, she'd already picked 800, which made me just feel completely inadequate. So I'm trying to tell myself it's fine to put them in late. They're starting to flower, they're getting going, but there's always somebody that's doing it so much better. And very exciting news, Shirley Bassey's babies hatched out early, which was a real surprise and not something that's happened to me before. So they weren't due until Monday, and they only take 21 days to cook anyway, if you like, to make the baby. But one of them arrived on Sunday morning, and I was very worried about it because it was very, very floppy and it couldn't support itself at all. And I just thought, well, this is a bit weird that it's so early, 2 full days early, and then there's a problem with it. So I left it anyway with Shirley to look after, and she's doing an excellent job. And then by the time I was back on, well, in fact, by Sunday afternoon, it wasn't any better. And I was thinking, oh, God, what am I going to do about this? But by Monday morning, it was completely right as rain, running around, and completely dry and fluffed up, and no issues with it whatsoever. And then baby number 2 had just pipped, so there was like a little triangle missing from the shell where the baby pokes a little tooth on its beak through to crack the shell. So I thought, oh, I'll keep an eye on that. And an hour later, baby number 2 had completely smashed its way out of the shell. So number 2 is an absolute stormer. It's going to be charging through life. So it's slightly larger than baby number 1 anyway. And they're both absolutely gorgeous, absolutely just gorgeous little, beautiful little fluffy little things. And I put a little video on my Instagram if you want to see what they look like. And they are going to be the fertilizer producers for next year. So very excited about that. And Shirley's a terrific mum. And so, yeah, that's a really lovely little bonus in the year to have those guys. My sweet pea order has arrived in the post, along with the cosmos and the zinnias that I ordered as well. So I did have a question from a listener saying, how did I pick the sweet peas that I've just bought? And I would like to say that there's a really professional, technical, proper answer to this, and there isn't one actually. I was listening in the car the other day to an episode of The Dirt on Flowers, which is Shannon and Lindsay, over in the States, who do a great podcast. And they did an episode where they interviewed Maren Mathis, who is a amazing sweet pea grower and author of a book called Sweet Pea School. And Maren was asked for her favourites. And I was sat listening in the car and I thought, oh, I'm going to write these down. And then stuck in traffic, and I looked them up and ended up buying them. So they're based on Marin's recommendations. And as she's like a really proper fancy grower, I thought there's bound to be something in what she's saying here. She's not going to recommend anything that's rubbish. And she was absolutely raving about King's Ransom and Castle Welland. So that's how I managed to choose those two. And then I chose the variety Emily myself for the pink colour, which is very pretty. And I will also in due course get some white ones as well, probably white swan again. That's what I've grown this year, and it's done very, very well. Very, very pretty. So that's how I came up with those varieties. Now on Saturday I went to Clifton House, which is a beautiful big big fancy house down the road from me, which does lots of weddings, and it's also a national trust, so you can go around the grounds and wander around. They've got some gardens, and the gardens were fine. Everything's looking a little bit dry and not burnt, but just like sunbeaten and worn down. But they do lots of weddings there. And so we had a look at all the flowers that were being put out by the florists in preparation for the event in the afternoon. And they had, interestingly, they had a blue and white theme as well, because it seems to me that blue is 100% the color of 2025. And I can't wait to find out what 2026 is going to be. I really need to get on some Instagram sites and have a look and see what's going on. But I'm slightly concerned, because if you use Instagram regularly, you'll know if you look at any picture in the sort of suggestions bit or the search bit, the algorithm thinks that's what you're interested in, and then you just get nothing but that for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I'm thinking, if I click on bridal stuff, the algorithms that are connected like to all our laptops and phones and everything is just going to push wedding stuff at me forever, and I'm not sure what that's going to be like, but I guess it's useful for work, so I'll probably just have to grin and bear it and do it. Now, I've been invited to take part in a flower festival that's taking place at the end of August in a local church. I was invited by the lady that I supplied those wedding flowers to that went off on a boat. And she rang me the other day and asked if I'd like to supply some stems, which would be great, and possibly do some arranging, which I won't do because I'm not good enough. And perhaps just have a presence there and talk to people and, promote it on socials and stuff. So I thought I'd do that. She wants to know what us growers will have available at the last week of August, which is quite a tough one because that is 4 weeks away, and anything could change in that time. And we are forecast a couple of weeks of warm weather, getting up to sort of 25, 26, which is absolutely lovely, but I'm not quite sure what it's going to do to all the flowers. So the dahlias should be ready, but that's also assuming that things don't get sold in the next month. So it's really, really hard to try and work out what I would have left. And I don't know that I should earmark anything. Well, I don't know, actually. Maybe I should earmark things for that and for that event and then not sell them, because I think, the events indoors is unlikely to be cancelled. So I'm going to have a bit of a think about that and work out what to do. But it's very nice to be asked to take part, and the organizer is very keen, excuse me, is very keen to promote British flowers, locally grown, and she does all her arranging in a entirely sustainable way, so she won't use any foam or plastics or anything, which I'm 100% on board with for that. I used floral foam once a few years ago, and I found it just like the weirdest, most disgusting stuff. It was just really weird. I don't know if you've used it or you use it regularly. I couldn't get on with it at all. I understand how it works, and it's great for holding all the stems in place and everything, but it was absolutely disgusting stuff. It feels really weird and it smells weird, and then you just sort of find these weird little green bits all over the place. Very odd. Anyway, this lady does not allow the use of that in her arrangements, so that is good. So I've got to decide what I'm going to do about that. And then I had a question as well about my availability list to my florist. How does it work? What does it look like? How do I do it? What's the time frame for it all? So I thought I would just share that with you in case that's something that might be of interest to you. So when I first started working with my lovely florist, I was just, terribly overexcited about everything. And I think I just sent her a whole bunch of photos of things that I had. Just went out, took pictures. And then it turned out that actually you have to supply the stem length and the price. And then, the stem length and the price and the number of stems that you're going to have available, if that's the way you do it. Because some people supply buckets of flowers, and therefore you would have a price for your bucket and you just fill the bucket accordingly. But you still have to have a rough idea of how much things cost so that you don't fill it with, 200 quid's worth of flowers and just charge 50. But I've started off doing the stem price route, which I have found monstrously challenging, as you know. So the florist will say to me, I've got a wedding, say, in 2 weeks' time, and she will send me the kind of the color scheme or the mood board or something to indicate what kind of colors she's looking for, whether she's got a preference for any particular types of stems or anything. And then I will go to the plot and make a list of everything that I will have flowering and looking perfect in that time frame, which at the beginning was really challenging. Actually, I'm getting used to it now, but it was particularly hard when the heat waves were on, because something might look perfect in 3 days' time, but it definitely won't in 4, that kind of thing. So I make a list, and I actually make a spreadsheet on my laptop now. I did start off with bits of paper and notes on my phone, and I thought, no, this is going to get silly. So I actually make a spreadsheet with the flower, the name of the flower. Sorry, I just thought actually maybe I will get a spreadsheet up right in front of me, and then I don't need to guess at what I'm saying. So let me just open one of those. Okay, here we are. So I've got a column for the type of flower, a column for the color, a column for stem length. I've put a column in to say whether it's a single or a multi-headed one, a column for the number I have available, another column for the price per stem, and then I have a separate column for price per bunch or bucket, and that generally just applies to the foliage. And then I have a kind of a total column, and then I have a notes column where I can add anything extra, like perfect for bud vases, or 20 stems per bucket, or can cut to any length you want, or I'll send you a photo, anything that really helps her when she's making her decision. And the stem length isn't like at one fixed number. I can put things like between 20 and 30 centimeters, or various, or 60 to 80 centimeters, or things like that. And that's the spreadsheet that I make up, and it's almost like a quote, really. And then I copy the spreadsheet, paste it into an email, and I'll send it over to her. And then I'll separately WhatsApp her any pictures or anything that's relevant to the quote. And then she will get back to me, and she's normally very, very quick, and tells me what she would like. There may or may not be a negotiation on some of the pricing, and that is fine. And I will tweak the pricing, the stem pricing, based on the condition of the flowers and how many I've got left. And then, so then she'll write back and say, right, this is what I want. And I write back and say, okay, I confirm that I'm going to supply that. And then it's normally, so if the wedding's on a Saturday, she might collect from me on a Thursday. So she's got time to prepare everything and make all the arrangements and everything on the Friday. So I will cut the stems on Wednesday morning first thing and condition them in buckets overnight, and then she will collect them from me on Thursday. I did used to deliver at the beginning, but she collects now, which is lovely, because of course she can have a wander around and see if there's anything else she wants. So that is how that whole process works, and so far it is working perfectly okay. And the more I do it, the not the easier it gets, but the more straightforward it is, and the more I understand about what might work for her. So I think at the beginning I was like super fixated on stem length, because it is such a thing and the imports are just vast. But now I'm thinking, okay, I haven't got a great stem length on this flower, but it will be perfect for bud vases. So I'll put in the notes column, for bud vases, something like that. So she doesn't just look at the stem length and go, oh, I can't use that. I'm probably being too simplistic with it, like, because she's a pro, so she'll look at 30 centimeters and automatically her brain will say, oh, that'll be for bud vases or similar buttonholes or something like that. So that is how that works. Now this morning I went to visit a fellow grower who's part of this lovely WhatsApp group that I was invited to join. So I went to see Fiona at Chiltern Skyflowers, and she's about 25 minutes away from me, and she's got the most beautiful setup. And I love that fellow growers will take the time to invite you to their plot and share their thoughts and their challenges, and they're so open. And Fiona's just lovely, and she's very experienced. She's been doing it for years, and she is wonderful. It's only the second time I've met her. She came to pick up some stems from me last week, and I thought, this is a lovely lady. And she absolutely is very generous with her time and with her thoughts and with her experiences. And there's just so much to talk about. There really, really is. And I shared some of my concerns about, what am I going to grow next year, and how do we know what people want and what's going to sell, and how do we make sure we've got everything ready on time, because there are just so many variables. And yes, just so many things that come out of nowhere and just like completely ruin everything. And so it was wonderful to spend the time with her and pick her brains. And as I say, she's a very experienced grower, and she's got a gorgeous Instagram account, and she also does workshops as well. So she's a very busy lady, and yeah, a very kind and generous with her time lady. So that was a really lovely morning. Now, I did say we were going to be putting fence panels up over the weekend, and we just ran out of time to do that. So it may or may not happen by Friday. I'm not sure. I've got a really busy rest of the week. There is hopefully cutting for a wedding this weekend, and jobs to be done, and babies to look after, although Shirley's doing a very good job of that without me. I had to go off and buy some special food for them this morning, little tiny chip crumb for them. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to have to tell you about on Friday, but I'm sure I will have something. So I do hope you'll come back and join me on Friday for the next episode. And I hope you have a lovely week meantime, if you're enjoying some holidays, or if you're growing, whatever you're up to. I hope you have a lovely remainder of the week, and hopefully come back and join me on Friday.